Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Ohio State Sport Management YouTube channel. I'm Joe Mullins, and today's guest is 1991 graduate Jim Smith. Jim was most recently the president and CEO of the Alumni Association at Ohio State. Thanks for joining us today, Jim.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we'll hop right in with a few questions here. Can you give us a quick rundown of your career journey and kind of what you're up to today?
Well, I think you told me to keep this to 45 minutes, so I'll give you the abbreviated version. So 30 years in the business of really what I'd say is customer relations, not customer service, but customer relations. It's been 25 years in sports and entertainment, a year in freelance, in pretty much 4 years at Ohio State as the president and CEO of the Alumni Association. But the kind of the weaving piece of that career has been people. And really being able to connect with people and grow people. But it started back, I went to undergrad at Northwestern, then moved to Central California to take a job in minor league baseball for the Visalia Oaks, which is a Class A, single A, should survive the minor league contraction. In the Cal League, long A. It was really cool. I was the assistant general manager as my first job out of college. And it was a two-person show. The general manager and the assistant general manager. That was 1989, before really minor league baseball hit its renaissance. And after a year of doing that, I realized I probably needed a master's degree to move forward in this crazy sports industry, and got the opportunity to go to Ohio State and work as a grad assistant at Ohio State with Bo Rugg. And it was an incredible 2-year experience getting my master's there. I actually got a raise to go back to grad school. I got
amazing.
It was really amazing. Minor league baseball did not pay much, and I think my parents were happy to see that. Not only did I get a raise, but I got my tuition covered for grad school. So 2 years after that, and one of the things that you may tie into my career is that the connections of people always come back around. So once I finished grad school, I got the opportunity to go to Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, Texas, which is just outside of Houston, to run the arena there. It was a 7,000-seat sports arena on campus. And the guy who hired me was someone who I worked for as an undergrad at Northwestern. And so the connection I made there translated into really my first full-time job, 3.5 years down in Huntsville, Texas, running the arena, doing concerts, comedians, Carrot, we did this guy named Carrot Top, right, before he was anybody. And literally we played he did 2 shows, and literally after he was done with the second show, he helped us pick up the plastic flooring that covered the basketball arena. And we played 3-on-3 dunk hoops for like an hour with him. And then he took the car back to the airport. But that was back when clearly it was just getting started. But it was fun. You learn a lot about the entertainment business when you end up being the promoter of shows in a really small market, because you had to work really hard to get it. And that led me to my next job at the World Wrestling Federation, because I met a lot of those folks through running the arena, and they knew I was from Connecticut. And, Huntsville is a nice place to visit, but I didn't want to live there for the rest of my life, and had some career aspirations. So I ended up at the WWF in Stamford, Connecticut, and ended up running all of live events in North America for Vince. That was during the mid-'90s, and it was not a glorious day for wrestling at that point in time, at least the WWF. And it was a really tough industry, and I was in the right place at the right time to learn a lot. Met a lot of really good people. And again, that was a connection through a job, right? I was working at Sam Houston through associations and the business. I got a connection. It got me to the WWF. I get to the WWF for a year, and I get a call from Ohio State as one of the women I went to grad school with, Rochelle Simonson, called and said, "Hey, we're looking for a director of marketing in the athletic department." And I said to Rochelle, "They're never going to hire somebody from the WWF at Ohio State. Come on." And she goes, "No, this athletic director thinks differently." It was Andy Geiger at the time. And, she was right. It was, again, another connection, this time through the grad program specifically, and got me into the interview process. And I ended up getting the job. And, 2 days after I take the job and I start, we're in the negotiation for the first Nike contract at Ohio State.
Wow.
The very first one. And I can remember when we get through it all, and I can still see myself talking to the Reebok people, because they were the the other competitor at the time, in my apartment on Sawmill as we were moving in, talking about the deal and telling them that we were going to go in another direction. And also seeing that same night, my handwritten note to Andy saying, hey, this is the best it's going to get from Nike on TV, because the public records disclosure, we had to give everything to the media. And it was just a wild transformation from going from the WWF, where nothing was real and you never knew what was going to go on, to everything is absolutely real at Ohio State and so transparent. You're going to see your own handwritten notes on TV. So that was the first of many big deals that we did together with Andy. I thought he really transformed that athletic department. And, I think Gene has done a wonderful job picking up where Andy left off. But the building boom that we went through while I was in the athletic department, from building the Bill Davis Stadium to the Schott to the Jesse Owens Memorial Stadium, track facility, soccer, lacrosse, and then redoing the Ohio Stadium, all in 4.5 years, massive undertaking. And it was an absolute blast, great learning experience. Got to work with some really great people, and it parlayed into the next job, because the guy from the crew who I knew, Jamie Roots, called me one day and said, hey, would you be interested in running the crew? He told me confidentially he was leaving, and I said no. And why would I ever leave Ohio State to go run the crew? And, he convinced me about the opportunity. Plus, I love soccer. And it was a really cool opportunity to go be on the ground floor of a fledgling sport, because that's really what it was. And so I went there for 5 years, some incredible stories, which maybe we'll talk about later. So I did that for 5 years. And then Jamie recommended me for a job down here in Atlanta with the Falcons. And I got the opportunity to come down here and had 3 careers here in Atlanta with the Falcons, pre-Mike Vick, post-Mike Vick, and then, building a stadium and, buying a soccer team for Arthur Blank. And it was really, a great 12-year run here when my alma mater calls again. And Archie's retiring, and they're looking for someone who would be silly enough to take the job after Archie Griffin, because who would want to follow a legendary Buckeye? But why not? And it was an incredible transition. Great to go back to Ohio State, see the tremendous progress the university has made over the 2 decades that I'd been away. And really fun to lead an association of 570,000 alumni and really see the great work that our alumni do around the world in their communities and for the university. So 4 years into that role, I decided to retire, come back to Georgia. I commuted that whole time, and then came back here for family reasons. And now I find myself doing some project work, and I find, just busy enough to stay incredibly busy working in Major League Baseball, indoor lacrosse, doing some nonprofit work. It's great to have your own schedule, and all those again through connections, right? That's just the whole thing. When you make these relationships and connections with people, and you can make them last a lifetime, they really can play out for you really well. So there's a 10-minute journey of a 30-year career.
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned you stayed at the Falcons for almost 12 years. What kind of kept you there, and what kind of kept you fresh while you're working for the same organization for so long?
Yeah, so it's a great. I mean, it's a great question, and if you really follow through for my jobs, they were somewhere between kind of 3 and 5 years, and I'd max out, I'd be ready, and I think I'd finished everything. Well, I was getting to that point when at Ohio State, I felt like, hey, we had turned the corner. At the Falcons, we had turned the corner. When I got here, we were pretty much 32nd in revenue in a 32-team league. Yeah. And we were moving up dramatically quickly. We'd made a lot of really good decisions and moved us forward and felt like we were getting to that point. And then we had the whole unraveling. We had the greatest, arguably one of the greatest players ever to play the quarterback position, or maybe not, you won't say greatest, but definitely the most exciting player ever to play the quarterback position, Mike Vick. And, we built a lot around him, and then suddenly he's gone and you're stuck, and there aren't too many times you're ever going to get a chance to rebuild an NFL brand. And that's exactly what we ended up doing. And that was part 2 of the career that took about 5 years, 4 years, and then all of a sudden we're in a design for a brand new state-of-the-art, incredible stadium, and I got to do a lot of design work there that you get to see come to fruition. And also, we bought a soccer team, and I was the one lobbying for professional soccer here in Atlanta, and I thought it would be a great investment for the organization. And so those were kind of parts 2 and 3 of a career that kept me there 12 years.
Yeah, and you mentioned you worked with Vince McMahon for a little bit. I think he's one of the most, well-known innovators within sport, if we use those terms. What was it like to work with a guy like that that's kind of constantly looking for the next thing? Yeah,
Vince had an incredible, without a doubt, one of the most creative minds you ever could see. He knew what the customer wanted and was so focused on delivering entertainment value all the time, and would take the responsibility for it. There's some people who understand it, probably own companies or are presidents, but won't take the full responsibility for, hey, the product ends with them. He absolutely did. And, he transformed an industry from one light with smoke, people literally smoking, to a television product that is really incredible. And it's built for TV, and it's done with these really incredible athletes. People, whether I tell you I'm going to pick you up, lift you over my head, and throw you on your back, and I can believe me when I tell you, if you or I were to lean against the rope in that ring, it's not moving, and it hurts. It's not meant for people who are 200 pounds. Those rings are built for really big, strong men and women who are going to throw themselves around. And it's so the pain can be real. The falling is real. The outcome may be determined, but it's all built around a story that really Vince always had a vision for. And that was to really entertain. And that's what he did really, really well.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Sure. What are some of the, I guess as a broad theme maybe, what are some of the challenges that you faced throughout your career, whether they're individual examples or kind of broad themes that you've faced throughout your roles?
Well, I think the biggest, it's not challenge, but I really look at it as an opportunity. Your success, my success was all based on the people I had around me, right? So getting the team right, getting the team headed in the right direction, making sure that you're investing in those people so they grow and can get better in their roles and their careers can grow. That's the biggest challenge and opportunity that's there. And knowing that it's not about you, your accomplishments, my accomplishments are really a broader set of people's accomplishments. And when you can manage your ego well enough to really accept that, it is when I think you can really have the greatest success. And getting people around you to accept that as well, that's the challenge, is when you all can accept that together and know that together is where you have success and not necessarily individually. But that's a really broad set. I'll tell you, one of the biggest challenges was leaving Ohio State and going to the Crew from just a career perspective. You go from a place that's resourced incredibly well to a really what was at that time a startup. And then you go through the first season and you get to the end of that, and there's 2 envelopes that you have. One that says the season, the league is folding, and the other that says the league is contracting by 2 teams and we're moving forward. And that's to actually be in an environment to know that you left the safety of Ohio State to go to the uncertainty of soccer. That was glaring at that point. But then you realized, as I told the people who were working in soccer at that time, we were pioneers in the sports world. And so you look at where Major League Soccer is today with franchise values where they are and salaries and all those things. It's fantastic. It's fun to know that I was a part of that. I wish there was like a MLS Films where they sit with all the old people that were around back and they can tell stories about what it was really like when MLS was just starting. Yeah,
there might be a 30 for 30 on that someday, I would imagine. Sort of along those same lines, what are some of the things you've enjoyed most about your roles? I know you said, people are kind of number one for you, but what are some other things you've enjoyed doing?
Yeah, the people are the fun part, being able to reconnect with people, even after long periods of time that you may have disappeared. I mentioned the Sam Houston experience. I mean, that was 28 years ago. And, when I was in Houston last, the crew of students that worked for me, because it was a student crew, well, we all got together, and it was
That's
great.
cool.
And then the stories just kind of run. So, I mean, the people really are it. I mean, from an event perspective, I'd say one of the coolest things was getting Lamar Hunt, who owned the crew at the time, to believe that we should host U.S.-Mexico in February, that match in February, and that we would sell it out. And that was, without a doubt, a defining moment for U.S. soccer against Mexico, but also for Columbus and its kind of legacy of World Cup qualifying soccer. So really cool to have been a part of that and see that come to fruition. So I think that's one of the really good stories.
Cool. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to attend a few of the Dos Zeros, and it feels like the only time that I felt like Crew Stadium was going to fall over. It was pretty cool environment.
That first one was as well. I mean, really just really, really cool. Really cool that Columbus got to be at the center of that. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah. Now our next question is, from a professional standpoint, who has influenced you the most throughout your career?
Yeah. So really, Joe, when I say I have been incredibly fortunate to work for 4 visionaries, right? I mean, really guys that thought differently, that saw things differently, that approached things differently, and all in very different ways, right? So you mentioned one, Vince McMahon, it absolutely is a visionary for what he saw as far as entertainment, right? Then I came to work for Andy, and Andy was a visionary athletic director, way ahead of his time. I used to always say that because the SEC 25 years later has finally caught up facility-wise to where Ohio State was 25 years ago. Wow. Just the investment in not just the facilities, but in the student athlete, that, the whole focus on we can be big and great was Andy's vision. And he had it and believed it, and working and seeing his vision was great. And then I transitioned to Lamar Hunt. Lamar, having started the NFL, and his belief in soccer and his attention to detail that was like no other owner probably ever, and his real commitment and interest in the fan and ticket sales and the fan experience. And but he was, if you believe, he definitely had a vision for soccer like he did for football. And I'm just sorry he's not here to see soccer where it is today, because he had a big part into its current form. And then I came to work for Arthur Blank, right? And the guy co-founds Home Depot, and basically has nothing at the beginning when Home Depot had empty giant boxes. If you ever read the book, it's a great book. There's giant shelves of empty boxes because they didn't have enough inventory to fill the stores, but you had to make it look full. And, and it was, starting from, it was really, the book's called Built from Scratch, and it's what he did. He built it from scratch, he and his partner, Bernie. And so, but just under his unwavering commitment to the customer and commitment to the customer is just in the DNA of the organization. And to see how you can be incredibly successful and care about the customer, they're not mutually exclusive. And to see it in action every day really was, Arthur's vision. And I think that's what you get when you go to an Atlanta United game or go to a Falcons game or go to any one of his other businesses that he has. And so I would say those are the 4 people who've influenced me from a career perspective the most. And then, I'm personally, it all comes, my parents are the foundation for who I am. Those 4 gentlemen I mentioned built on a foundation really that my parents built with a really strong work ethic, a little East Coast edge, but definitely a really strong work ethic that, you work hard, it's dated in today's world, but it really served me well in the work ethic and their commitment to being honest and truthful and, caring about people.
Yeah, those are all good, awesome traits to have, right? And especially in mentors. And if you can learn from the type of mentors that you've been able to learn from, that's amazing. Kind of switching gears, the current situation, COVID-19 that we're going through has had like an insane impact on not only the world, but pro sports and college sports. Can you kind of give us your thoughts on the current situation and just how do you see sports kind of, going forward in the next year or so?
Yeah, so I really hope we can get some live sporting events. And, I enjoy golf. It's been great. I'll watch a little NASCAR. That's okay. I think I prefer a team sport to see something going. I think, Joe, everybody has said it. I think we all want to wish and will away a virus that is just not going to go away anytime soon. And so everybody's got to be responsible in how they approach it. And it would be, look, I'll take games with no fans at any point in time, as long as if the players can be treated safely. But I'm in no rush to see fans there. I just want it to be the right time. I was on the phone. I do some work. I mentioned do some work with the Braves, and I was on the phone today, and I said in this case, what's the rush to be first? Because there's a huge there's upside in that. Okay, great, you're going to make some people feel good, but don't be wrong, because that's even worse at this point. So it's unfortunate. I will say there are a lot of teams, in the Braves included, who've been great to their employees, right? Who, I know it's been hard for folks trying to get into the business or to get hired in right now, but for those who are in it, I think the Falcons have done it as well. There are teams who have treated the employees really well, and I think that says a lot about those types of organizations, that they're really caring about it. So, like everybody, I want sports back as soon as possible, and I don't want someone to go too fast to where they get the firestorm that crushes them afterwards.
Yeah, it's definitely been fun to watch the Bundesliga and the Premier League and those things kind of come back as team sports and have the commentators and things and stuff that we're used to, right?
Right. Crowd noise. I'll take the fake crowd noise. Go ahead, pump it in for me. And through technology, there's got to be a way to start working fans into these games. I don't know what it is, but I hope somebody's working on it. That you can take crowd shots from people's homes or something, just to have some reaction, because I think that would be really cool.
You have to have like a 3-minute delay to make sure nothing inappropriate gets across the waves there.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on this, but what made you come to Ohio State to do your master's degree? Like, what was the impetus for doing that?
Yeah, so back in the day, there weren't a lot of sports management programs, right? And there were only three really good ones at the time, and Ohio State was one of them. And I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to go back. I was ecstatic because the other two were great, but I wanted to go back into the Big Ten. Columbus had some really good minor league sports that gave internship opportunities, so they were good hands-on learning experiences. The program did a great job, as it does now, trying to help students with internships and placements after, and staying connected. So it was great, a great opportunity. And the GA-ship was a big determining factor for me. My parents, we weren't in a position to pay for grad school, so that had to be an important part of it as well. And so the program spoke for itself. I was just fortunate enough to sneak in.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. Do you have a favorite memory from your time at the program or your time at Ohio State, I guess, whether it's your grad assistantship or anything from the program?
Yeah, I mean, like we all talk about it, especially us being in sports, going to Ohio State football and working on the events team over at it was Larkins Hall at the time. So, we had a role on game day, and that was kind of cool. So that was it. I can remember that was the first time I stood in front of a large crowd, 700, to talk about intramural sports. Mm-hmm. So that'll always be kind of my first memory of public speaking to a big group. And then it got easier. I couldn't believe it, but it actually did get easier over time. And then I went from 600 as a grad student to 60,000 as the president and CEO of the Alumni Association, speaking at commencements. So Ohio State's given me a lot over that period of time from a public speaking standpoint. So those are just some of the top of the line. And then clearly High Street looked a lot different. There were plenty of High Street memories from when all the bars were there as well, but probably not for the YouTube channel, not this YouTube channel.
So that's a different one. Yeah, I think my first public speaking experience was at ice hockey signups for intramurals as well. So it's
Yeah, that's right.
those lessons are still being had today for sure. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but what's your advice to incoming grad students? Like, how can they get the most out of their time at Ohio State? You mentioned there's a ton of sports teams here that they get involved with, but what's your advice for people that might be starting the program in the next couple of years?
It's get involved and really get to know your fellow students, right? I think I always say, like I mentioned that story about me coming back to Ohio State like 6 years after 5 years into my career. And it wasn't like that was a person, Rochelle and I are great friends, but we don't talk every day.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where you make a connection with people and stay in touch. And, that whole, it is networking, but it's in a different vein. It's truly in a relationship development standpoint. So get to know your colleagues, the people that you intern for, get out into the community, volunteer your time when you have it. I understand everybody's time compressed these days, but when you can, it'll serve you well. May not serve. And the other thing is, don't look at it as transactional, meaning it's not going to serve you well in the moment. It will for a different reason, but it won't from a career standpoint. But it will serve you well in the long term.
Cool. That's amazing advice. Sort of along those same lines, what advice would you give to students that are currently graduating and maybe trying to find internships or get into sports, especially with the current situation?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is it's not so much advice, but it's more about reality. The bigger your universe, the more the opportunity, right? So
Sure.
If you're willing to go to North Dakota, there's probably a chance for you there. But if you're not, just know that that's one less opportunity that's available. And this is a little bit of a supply and demand thing. Everybody would love to stay in Columbus, and I would love to stay in Columbus too. Columbus is a great city, but you've got a couple of teams and one large university. Or just revise and scale differently, and know that there's great opportunities in small universities if that's a pathway forward. And like everybody will tell you, the first job is not indicative of your last job, right? Or your next job. Yeah. I started in minor league baseball and as an assistant GM, and didn't do anything with baseball for the next 30 years after I left. But it was an opportunity, and it taught me a lot. And I think the most important thing is, whatever that role is, be sure it can teach you something, and that you pick good people to align with in those organizations. That's the best thing you can do when you first get started.
That's great advice. I was speaking with a leader at OSU athletics this past week, and her advice was to grow, you got to go sometimes. And that's definitely true, especially at a place like Ohio State.
Yeah, it is.
What role do you see sports playing in furthering the current huge conversation going on, especially in the United States, making positive change when it comes to race and equality? What role do you see sports playing in that conversation?
Yeah, so I think sports, I think athletes really make the difference there. I think teams serve communities. They need to be part of their communities, but athletes can really become activists. And I think they have a platform, and they should feel comfortable using that platform to talk about the things that are really important to them. I don't think that should be looked upon any other way than how I feel about things. Sure. So I think sports, as it relates to athletes, really have an important role to play. I love our alum Malcolm Jenkins. I think he does an outstanding job. In a way, he talks about things that he's incredibly passionate for, and he does it in such an articulate and thoughtful way. I think he should be a role model for other athletes in how they're approaching the things that they care about, right? Whatever they are, he's just got a terrific approach for it.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see athletes use their platform, especially even current college athletes who might be a little bit younger, use their platform and really speak about what they're passionate about. I think that's amazing.
I say I agree. As long as they're thoughtful, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You just every once in a while you wonder, oh, did they really think that one through?
Yeah, it's hard to send the tweet, right?
Yeah, right. And it's one of the things I used to say. Used to catch people so off guard. This was at least a decade ago when I talked to young people either thinking about sports management or coming out. and say, hey, if I went to your social media page, what would I see? Mm-hmm. And back in the day, people wouldn't even think about it, right? They'd post whatever and pretend like we never went and looked at their page before we hired them. And say, remember, we're in $1 billion industry. You don't think we're going to check on the people who come to work for us? Yeah. And it's still the case. And that's where I'd say everybody needs to be really thoughtful about how they're going to approach their messaging.
Cool. Thank you. Moving on from like a very serious topic to some fun questions. What's your favorite restaurant or food in Columbus?
So my go-to in Columbus was Pat and Gracie's on Gay Street. Right, it wasn't very far from where my condo was, but the food was outstanding, and I had everything on the menu. So it was the bartenders were great. Everything was great. It's just a great neighborhood place that I really enjoyed.
Cool. I know you're a big reader. What book or books, I assume it's books, are you currently reading?
So I'm reading Red Card, and it's the story of the unraveling of FIFA and the scandal. And believe it or not, it started with an IRS agent in the United States. It's really, really interesting. So I'm in that one right now. And I can't wait. I'm actually going to take a week off next week and head to the beach. And so I'm sure I'll be done with that one here pretty soon.
Cool. Very cool. Thank you. Who's your role model? We talked about some mentors earlier, but who's like your life role model?
Yeah. So I think Bo would want me to say Bo, but it's probably my dad. I mean, he had such a great work ethic, and my dad's 95, World War II veteran. Wow. Just has seen a lot over life, and continues to carry on taking care of my mom. So there's just so many good things about what he's done throughout his life. So if I can, I've lived half as long as he has, but if I can live a little bit longer, then I'll be and live the way he would expect me to. I think that would be really cool.
That's amazing. What was your favorite sports team or teams growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Connecticut. I'm on East Coast, so Yankees, Rangers, Knicks, and then I grew up in the heyday of America's team. So I was a Cowboys fan growing up. I'm a Falcons fan now. Continue to be a Falcons fan even though I'm gone. And then I got split allegiance between the Crew and Atlanta United. They're both children to me in different respects. So those are my teams.
Cool. What's your favorite all-time sports memory? Doesn't necessarily have to be something you were working at, but as a kid or something that you were involved with professionally.
Yeah, right. So there's a lot of them, right? I promoted WrestleMania in Hartford, so I'll always remember that as an event that with Shawn Michaels and Diesel wrestling for the belt. Just crazy things like that. And I have chairs from WrestleMania. Anyway, U.S. Mexico, no question about it. That was incredible. I love going to the Masters. If you can go to the Masters, without a doubt, I think it's the greatest sporting event. I love the Super Bowl, but the Masters is something really special. But I'm going to put U.S. Mexico, that very first one when it was cold and the Mexican national team never came out of the locker room. It was fantastic. Fantastic.
Masters would be cool. I think I might pick a soccer one, but yeah, that'd be awesome. If you hadn't chosen a career path focused on sports, what do you think you'd be doing?
Yeah, I went to school to study radio, television, film. So I would have probably ended up trying to, it would have been only at Hollywood at the time because that's where there was the only production going on, and probably got into producing. I always liked the producing, directing thing more so than the on-camera. So I probably would have tried the producing, directing role, or tried to get involved in that industry.
Cool. What's your favorite genre?
Of movies or
movies? Yeah.
Now, so I'm still, if you gave me, if I had to sit down and watch a movie, it's either going to be Caddyshack or Fletch. Okay. So if it could, comedy, I love comedy. It's just, and good comedy. So I think that, that's what I like the most.
Awesome. Well, that was our last question, Jim. Thank you so much for your time today. I know you've been really giving to the program over the years as well. So wanted to take this time to thank you for that as well, whether it's speaking in classes or Zooming with students. Everyone at Ohio State really, really appreciates your time that you give. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in again this week to the SMA YouTube channel, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Joe.